Imagine that you want to build a website for your brand. What do you fill out the empty web pages with to make this website your website? Whatever you end up putting there is the basic set of brand assets you need to build your brand. Hey you guys, welcome back to our channel, the #1 place for people who love design, art and all things creative. You are watching Dantier and Balogh's channel, my name is Laszlo, and in this video I want to talk about the brand design elements you need as a designer, creative, an entrepreneur of any kind to be able to brand yourself or your business. I already have made a video in which I gave you some generic, conceptual branding tips, but this time I want to cut through the noise and give you a very simple, no-nonsense list of 5 brand assets you need to build your brand identity system in 2021. Let's jump straight in. First of all, you're going to need a logo. Obviously. A logo is the visual focal point of any brand. You already know that. But what you might not know is having one logo in 2021 is not necessarily enough. There are way too many platforms out there, each doing their own thing, and every single one of them has their own restrictive formats and visual systems in place. So what you'll find is sometimes your logo just won't work within a given space. A logo that looks good on a big screen might not look good on an Apple Watch, and vice versa. Now, big brands noticed this and they reacted to this phenomenon by putting scalable, responsive logo systems in place. If you have no idea what I'm talking about here, let's look at this image. Brands like Chanel or Disney have their basic logos on the left, and then they have all these simplified variations, giving them the option to scale their logo marks down whenever a specific platform requires it, or they just feel like it's needed. And I do the same thing here. I start every video with this nicely typed out Dantier and Balogh logo, but wherever I feel like it wouldn't be legible to use this big one, I use this little monogram version instead. This is something I feel like you should definitely keep in mind if you are designing a logo for yourself, or if you are commissioning a logo designer. Scalability is the way forward. Asset number 2. Colors. Now colors, in my opinion, are the most important visual assets you can use in your brand. More important than the logo. I probably don't even have to show you the logo, but if I just put this little color swatch here, you know exactly which brand I'm thinking about right now, aren't you? That's the power of color. In terms of advice, I would say most brands can and should be boiled down to 2, maybe 3 different color shades. So try to build up a palette like this. Whenever I design a brand, I start off with a main color, which we usually end up using for the logo. Then we're going to need a background color, which complements this logo design. And after that, usually I put in one more shade in place, a somewhat secondary color, which helps me to fill out the visual gaps between my main 2 color shades whenever it's needed. We associate certain colors with certain emotions and moods, which is something you should be playing with, and also use them to create a concept and further tell your brand story. When I built the D&B brand, for example, I very consciously went with this monochrome gray and white color scheme, because I knew that both Jacqueline's and my creative design style when it comes to client projects is very rich, crazy colorful, sometimes selling very out there ideas. So when it comes to client presentations and showcasing projects, we will want the client work to shine through our presentation slides, while the D&B branding itself should be very tame, very subtle in the background, complementing and professionally packaging up all the proposed craziness. We do this for our videos as well, by the way. Darker, muted down background, richer, more colorful foreground. I don't know how much of that comes across the camera, but you get the gist. Try to build a concept with color. Okay, branding asset number 3 is fonts and typography. Now in 2021, if you look at how most brands approach type and fonts, it is quite uninspiring. We are getting less and less experimental with the fonts we use for 2 main reasons, which I already kind of touched on. One of them is legibility, the screens are getting smaller so we have to adapt. And 2, all these restrictions introduced on all the different platforms we are using for branding. On Instagram, for example, if you want to put text onto a story, there's only so much fonts that you can choose from. Now this has led to this weird situation that seemingly all the brands are using the same 5-6 fonts in their branding. So if you're ever in doubt, just use one of these. 2 fonts are usually enough for a brand, one for headlines and one for body copy. And to be honest, since this is the brand asset which is the easiest to replace and change later on, I wouldn't sweat too much on it when you are just creating your brand. I think typography is like fashion, going around in circle-like trends, so I hope I don't hurt any typographers' feelings when I say I don't think this is where most people should get creative within their branding in 2021. By the way, I don't mean to disregard designers and brands which are using typography in a very clever way in terms of design elements, because on that front there is amazing work being done. I'm talking about strictly body copy here. Which leads me to my fourth asset, which I just going to call the visuals, because what secondary visuals you need is very subjective. Let's say you are going for a very corporate, professional looking identity, in which case you can look into different photographic style or icon design, while if you're going for a more youthful, edgier kind of brand, you might consider using illustration as part of your visual branding. If you're selling physical products, you might need packaging, in which case you can look into different textures or pattern design for your products. If you feel like you've been restricting yourself in terms of the fonts and typography, this is the category when you can get really creative. Two things to bear in mind: whatever you create should be a combination of however you want to appear in your market, and two, what your target audience expect a brand like yours to look and feel like. Like, since I do digital illustration and icon design, it makes sense that Dantier and Balogh as a brand has its own custom icon set. But I think you can really bend the rules to your way here. Like, let's say you're a one-man operation, having a little Etsy shop selling handmade goods. In which case it would make sense if your brand itself would have a handmade, craftsy, personalized feel to it as well. If you need a starting point for these visuals, I always tell people, just think of what are you going to use as Instagram highlight covers. You know, besides your logo, what are you planning to put on your Facebook banner or the back of your business card? Those are the type of supporting visuals I'm talking about here, yeah? And last but not least, the be-all and end-all, your website. Do you need it? Yes, of course you need it. Why though? Well, because on social media sites you are never fully in control of your content. Everything is up to their rules and their algorithms. And since social media sites can come and go, carving your own little space on the interwebs in the form of a website is always going to be a good idea. Now this is the point where you would think this video is being sponsored by Squarespace. I promise you, it is not. In fact, this video might be the only video you watch today which has not been sponsored by Squarespace. But it is what I happen to be using for the Dantier and Balogh website. And it does a pretty decent job, to be honest with you. But then again, so would WordPress. I also used Weebly in the past. Wix I can't comment on, I never used it, although Jacqueline did and she didn't like it. That was years ago though. And I think in 2021 these website making websites are growing out to be able to give you very similar results for very similar monthly pricing, so just choose whichever. Now, since Squarespace does seem to be blowing all their money on influencer marketing, use that to your advantage. I guarantee some of your favorite YouTubers will be able to sort you out with some Squarespace discount code if you wanna build a website there. Again, we don't have one of those, but yeah, pretty much all the big YouTubers are being paid by Squarespace now, so you'll find one. The other way you can go on about this is hiring a web developer if you're not into this whole web design thing. They will be able to provide something much better and more customized than one of these template-based website making solutions. But on the flip side, it's going to cost you. And again, I wanted to start and end this video talking about websites because I think when you're building a website, you're going to need all these previously mentioned assets. You're gonna need a logo, you're going to need some colors, you're going to need text, images, icons, in order to package your whole brand up and put it online for the world to see. So thinking about what makes a well-designed website is a really good indication of what brand assets you need and how to build your brand identity system. Yeah? Guys, there is so much more we could be talking about. There is sound design, there is animation, there is motion graphics, but we're not describing some global brand's extensive style guide here, which, I kid you not, could easily be a couple hundred pages long. You know what, that's a really good tip as well. If you do a quick Google search, you will be able to find style guides for the biggest brands of the world, if you ever feel like you could use some branding inspiration. But these 5 simple assets should be enough to get you started with your brand, really. Guys, if you enjoy this kind of content, join our creative crew so you are always in the know when we post something new about art, design, illustration, interior design, architecture, all those cool things and everything we can find in between them. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and I hope to see you this time next week. Bye!